Hey folks, let's get started. Now that Francois is in the room, we've got a couple of people that are on their way. We've got text messages. We may have one or two that, since we normally meet on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday instead of a Friday, that we'll figure that out tomorrow and go, oh, I'm so sorry. But we do have some people that I know have some commitments that's going to cause them to have to leave. So I'm going to open the meeting formally. And before we kind of get into the meat of it and meet Francois and his team and start going through all that, I'm just going to test you a little bit here. Can anybody tell me what the homework assignment was? Can anybody even remember what the homework assignment was? Get this on video just for the record. So, Mario's got his list.
Come up with 50 things that we want to see our community evolve into.
Okay, so
2090.
Mario's got that almost right. Come up with a list, no number specified, that we can start turning in, collecting. Jessica's going to build that list, and eventually, when we get around, we move past talking about how we're going to do this, and we start doing this, we'll have some starting points. We'll have the 1974 plan and all these great ideas that people want to discuss, okay? And so if you've got that list, if you'll just get it to me before you leave here today, I'm going to get it to Jessica, and we're going to start putting that together. And because we might be slow learners, I have a homework assignment for next time. Now, everybody pay close attention. I'd like you to make a list of things that you would like to see in our plan. So if you've seen something in another town and you forgot to make your list today, bring it again next time. And I'm going to give you a head start. The meeting after that, you're going to have a homework assignment, and that homework assignment is going to be to make that list, because here's what's happened. Since we met last time, I went to a downtown I'd never been to, and I saw something that I had never thought of, and I'm going to put it on my list. And so every time we're going to collect that list up until I tell you, Uncle, and we've got enough to start with, but until then, each time you come, make that list. Handwritten's fine, typed up in multicolor, PowerPoint presentation, whatever's good for you, just give it to me or give it to Jessica, and we'll eventually begin to send that back out to you. And so turn your homework in today before you leave, and know that you have the same homework assignment for next time. So with that in mind, I'm going to move it along so we can be timely today, since I know a couple people have to leave. And there's a whole team here that we've been able to meet with some, but I want to introduce Francois, and I'm going to turn it over to him, and I'm going to let him kind of tell who they are, and then they don't know who we are. So we may do a little quick spin around the room so you know who we are. So Francois, it's all yours.
Miles, thank you so much. I appreciate this. And I really want to say welcome and thank you for everyone that's committed to this committee. You are the people that really helps to make this happen for the community. Because they needs to be the ones that are putting the sweat and equity in, and that's what you are doing. So thank you for that. And that's the 50 items. We can start today, and we can maybe come to number 30 perhaps today. I don't know, but let's start working through them. I love the idea that you already have some ideas on your end of what you want to do. So obviously this is a very, very important project for the community. The plan is important. You already had the plan in place before. It was already a good plan, but now what we're going to do is take this plan and really come with good recommendations for implementation so that you can see the result of it and see it soon. That we can get the low-hanging fruit projects, get them implemented, that the community can see that. And see that you've done your work behind this, and this is a good plan when they see the results. That's what our goal is with this plan. I do not want to introduce myself, the team. I would rather want them to introduce themselves, and I'm going to ask them in a minute. In fact, Ryan will lead that discussion. And we're also going to ask you then to introduce yourself as part of that. We call it an icebreaker topic, so to speak. So we're going to have an icebreaker for it in a second. But again, thank you for being here. And if you go through the program for today, we will have this icebreaker. Then we're going to talk about the approach to engagement, so we don't just know how are we going to engage the community. We also will talk a little bit about the personas mural, which is how we identify the people that we need to reach through engagement. Number 5, we're going to talk a little bit about branding, because you had a discussion about that before. Then we have some exercises, and that will take us to about 4:30. So what we will do then is potentially break up in 2 groups and then have the 2 groups discuss certain things. But this is the day for, or the event rather, for today. And so, again, thank you for being here. We're excited to be here ourselves and to do this project for you. So this time, Ryan, if you please come forward. And if I haven't introduced myself, I'm Francois de Kock. I'm from DDJ Design, and I'm the project manager on this project. So thank you.
Thanks, Francois. So we're going to go around, do quick introductions. As you can see, we have a pretty packed agenda, so we're going to want to do these fairly quick, but it is a meaningful way that we want to do it, where we start to get some vision and ideas. So what we're going to ask you to do, say your name, if there's any organization you feel you represent as part of this committee, tell us that. But then we're interested in, what is your most quintessential Nacogdoches moment? And so that could be a physical place. When I think of Nacogdoches, I think of this building or this intersection. It could be a moment in time, an event, whatever comes to mind for you. I'll start, we'll have our team go, and then we'll have you guys go around. And so mine was almost exactly 10 years ago, January 21st, but 10 years ago. I was in London, England, watching Clint Dempsey play soccer for Fulham, and he scored a hat trick. And he was the first American to ever score a hat trick in the English Premier League. I was sitting on the front row and jumped up with the Texas flag. I had the Texas flag upside down because it was a big hurry. I just grabbed the flag and stand up. And there's a photo of me with Clint Dempsey jumping in the air, and it was BBC, Washington Post, around the world, and I'm sitting there like a dummy holding the Texas flag upside down. But I always just think of Clint and Nacogdoches, so that's mine.
That's okay.
Thank you, Ryan. So Jason Claunch, we're going to serve as sort of the market and economic specialist for this. I love working on downtowns. We've done a number of Texas downtowns. And so I think the moment I remember most is I've got pictures of myself at Millard's Crossing. I was about 4 years old here in Nacogdoches. And I've been many times since then on various initiatives. So I look forward to working with you and your team. So.
I'm Brisa Byford, also with Civic Brand. My moment is the first time I came into town, I found the coolest mural I could find and took a picture with it and put it on Instagram because I'm a millennial.
Thank you, Brisa. You know, my quintessential moment was about 8 years ago. I came for the first time to Nacogdoches. And when I was at the intersection, my wife and I were at the intersection of North and South, where they get together, and Main Street. And the moment we first saw the mural, and that got my attention, but then as we drove in, and that opened up to the square area, and suddenly you're within this open space, to me that was so special. To me, that is a quintessential place for me in downtown. Michael.
Michael Delaney, I'm with 215 Consulting, kind of local liaison here for the project team. I was born and raised here, so I have a lot of moments in my life with Nacogdoches. I don't know if I can pick one to be quintessential, but it's really, it's home for me. That's key. That's home.
Thank you, Michael. Jay.
Thanks, Francois. Jay Narayana with Liverpool Plans and Codes on the DTJ team. Worked on a lot of downtown plans, and my focus is always on implementation, making sure the zoning actually makes it easy to do the right thing. I mean, that's my mantra as I go through the process. It's like, how can we make it easy for property owners, developers, builders who want to develop in the right way, make it easy to do the right thing. So in terms of Nacogdoches, I didn't grow up here, obviously, so it's maybe a few months ago when I visited Nacogdoches for the first time, and driving into Nacogdoches, and natural beauty is what kind of blew me away. And you have a great downtown. There are great bones in downtown are another thing that a lot of communities really, look up to. So I think you already have a gem that we just need to polish and kind of make it more, apparent for people to come and visit and enjoy.
Thank you, Jay. Jody.
Jody Short with Lee Engineering. I will be working on the transportation element related to the downtown. So it seems that the theme of our quintessential moments is first experiences, and my first time in Nacogdoches was coming to band camp at Stephen F. Austin. Had a great time, and first time away from home for an extended period, so it was left great impressions of Nacogdoches.
Thank you, Jody. Danny.
I'm Danny Hayes with KSA Engineers. We're, again, a local. Obviously, our office is in Lufkin, but We're on the infrastructure utility side of this team. I've been in Nacogdoches, living here for about 20 years. Moved to East Texas out of college, met a girl who was born and raised here. You know how that goes. Quintessential moment. Probably just having our children and raising them here and just with a downtown theme, their first haircuts were from Melissa over at Milford's. So that's kind of that's where I go, and it's nice to just walk in now, and after 20 years, I sit down and they just start cutting my hair. I have to tell them how to do it. So this is kind of that quintessential moment there.
Thank you, Danny. Maggie?
Hey guys, Maggie McMahon, PPJ Design, work with Francois. I came out Wednesday night from a capital city to the west, and it was quite a dark drive. And I passed through a couple towns, Crockett being one of them. And I said, oh, this is a cute little quaint, very typical downtown square. And then I finally got into Nacogdoches, and I was heading to Fredonia, and I passed Main Street going north on North Street, and it stopped me in my tracks, and I saw all the lights, was the literal light at the end of a tunnel, and I had to turn around and go take a look.
Thank you, Maggie. Please.
Stephanie Griffin, Main Street Assistant in PIO, met lots of people, lots of times. Favorite moment, moved here in 2016 for college, graduated from college here, got engaged here, I built a house here, I'm gonna get married here, so there's lots of good memories here, so it's hard to pick just one. My fiance and I love to go to events downtown, and we talk about it all the time. We're from small towns, but we don't get that small town charm with the events and the parades and all the fun stuff that happens down there, so that's probably one of our most favorite Nacogdoches moments is going to the events downtown.
Thank you for sharing. Brian?
Brian Gray, Community Services Director. I moved here in 2003. And oftentimes, we get used to looking at things in our own city and say, man, I really wish we need to, or we should do. And, looking back, when I first moved here, I moved into downtown, or I came through downtown and looked and went, wow, this is a really active downtown. And so I would recommend that we stop every once in a while and look at what we do have instead of focusing on what we don't have. Because we all agree that our downtown area could be improved and should be improved, but we have a really good downtown today. And we're here looking at how we make it better.
Thank you, Brian.
I'm Veronica Ama, I'm the new Historic Sites Manager. I just started this week, so I haven't met many of you, but I'm excited to be here. I went to SFA, and we've been visiting Nacogdoches for Lufkin for a long time, almost my entire life, and I love the downtown. I love seeing the brick streets and entering the stores and imagining people doing that for many, many years, and I just think it's really a treasure.
Thank you. Please.
Case Opperman, I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works for the city. I grew up here, born and raised, and like I was saying yesterday, I wasn't really one of the ones that couldn't stand it here. I wasn't just trying to get out, but I did leave for 4 years for school. Didn't plan to come back, but I wound up back here, and now I wouldn't leave if you paid me to. So anyway, love this town, especially now that I have a family that I'm raising. Wouldn't want to do it anywhere else.
Thank you so much. Jessica.
Jessica Salem, Community Services Assistant Director. I'm also the staff lead for the downtown project. My Nacogdoches moment is probably me and my husband got married on the steps of the Stern-Huey Museum. And then from there, we realized to go to the reception down at Liberty Hall that none of us had any cars to get down there. And so we walked from Stern-Huey to Liberty Hall. And the funniest part was that we saw people all along the streets driving down that knew us and were honking and waving and was in a huge wedding dress. But it's just such a perfect little small town thing where we go from our wedding, see friends along the way, and then kind of go celebrate together. So that's probably mine.
I just noticed I missed a guest. So just introduce yourself and say quintessential moment. Yeah, please.
Oh, okay. I'm just an interested citizen here today.
Yes.
My name is Ann Adams, and I guess my memorable moments all have to do with trees, but one in particular, because I love trees and I love shade, especially in the summertime in Texas. But my most memorable moment was after Hurricane Rita, the morning of and right after. I'd spent the night at a friend's house in the country that had a much safer house, because I live in a small house with big trees, and I thought, that's not a good mix for hurricanes. Little house, big trees. So when I came home the next day, there was a giant tree falling across my front porch sort of area. Now, my whole front yard was one big, huge tree. So my moment was when I'm standing there with my best friend and my neighbor who'd come over, and the KSLA from Shreveport news team came up and said, "Can we do our 6 p.m. broadcast from your front yard?" Who would ever thought, you know? Since then, we've had another hurricane.
Thank you.
That's a memorable moment.
Thank you for sharing, appreciate that. Suzanne?
Geez, there's a lot. I've been here for 33 years, so probably just raising my kids and having my kids stay here, you know, just because they love the area and it's just a good spot for everybody.
Wonderful. Mariam?
Hi, I moved here, it's my 7th year, and I'm gonna tell you, my quintessential moment happens every day. I live in a suburban part of town, and I can be anywhere within 5 to 10 minutes. And you know, in urban areas, that's a luxury.
Absolutely, that's for sure. Thank you so much for sharing, Mariam. John?
In 1973, returning from living and working in the Northeast, on the East Coast, I found an 1896 house on an incredibly steep hillside. I never built anything, much less renovated anything. I took it on and have never quit since then.
Wonderful. Labor of love, I'm sure. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, John. Brandy.
I'm Brandy Cartwright, and I've lived here for almost 10 years now. And I do represent the Parks Advocacy League, so parks tend to be a very important part of my quintessential moments. And one of my favorite memories is when my son was about 4 years old, and we lived over on Austin Street, and he had this little walk bike, and we'd been riding around. Not easy to do in Nacogdoches because there aren't a lot of sidewalks, but we have fairly wide roads in the neighborhood I live in. So we rode all the way down, though, across the campus, all the way to Pecan Park and played at the park. And then we were able to ride along North Street and hit a place to have dinner. And we went back through the campus and back home. And he had a 5-mile trip when he was about 4.5 years old. And I know not everybody feels comfortable riding around in Nacogdoches just because of you know, not a lot of bike lanes and things like that. And I hope to make it more comfortable downtown and everywhere else for people to ride bikes.
Well, thank you for sharing that and your passion about it. Appreciate it. Evelyn?
Evelyn Sauceda was born and raised in Mexico, but I came here when I was 16, so that was 1997. So I graduated from NHS, and then I got my bachelor, my master, my doctorate from SFA. I met my high school sweetheart in high school, and we decided very soon that this was an amazing town. We were very lucky to live here, and it's a great place to raise kids. So we have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old. I think that, and I feel that I represent working for Nacogdoches ISD and the bilingual department and the Hispanic community. I think that this town has really embraced and just differences and cultures. So at least I feel really lucky to be here. And I think one of the moments was one of the times that I had the opportunity to take my kids on a Christmas in downtown and to the parade. And we had 2 tiny chairs, and he sat on one. And I had a picture that is one of my favorites, and it's him smiling and looking at the fireworks. And I thought, this is such a beautiful place. It is safe. I don't ever remember. I always think I never have to worry about, honestly, locking my house, or sometimes if I ever forgot to lock my car. Obviously, it's not the same everywhere. However, I feel safe. And I'm not concerned about my kids' safety. I feel that I can walk even, obviously, we would like more light, but I feel safe. And this is what I want for my kids, and I'm very thankful for.
Thank you for sharing that, Evelyn. Appreciate it. Jay?
Jay Anderson. I am one of the city council representatives on the committee. I was technically born in Lufkin, but have spent, other than a few years of my life away at school, I've spent my whole life in Nacogdoches. Putting my finger on one quintessential moment, like others here in the same position, is very difficult because there are precious few city blocks in this town in which I don't have a very clear memory from one point or another in my life. I have sort of inherited my father's love for taking what Nacogdoches has and trying to renew it. That's part of the reason that I wanted to be on city council, and that's the fact that that Nacogdoches has so many of those opportunities available, and that I believe it has a tremendous amount of potential downtown and otherwise, is part of the reason that I wanted to be on council and part of the reason that I wanted to be on this committee. So,
well, thank you for being here and for sharing. Appreciate it, Jane. Great.
Greg Williams, and I was born about 3 blocks from here at Memorial Hospital, and I've lived here pretty much my entire life. So kind of like Jay and Michael, I could write a book of moments, quintessential and otherwise, Nacogdoches. But the one I better mention is I met my wife at SFA, so I'll go with that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Greg.
We're being recorded, so.
I'm Miles McCall, and for the last 10 years, I've worked downtown at a business, and I serve on the Main Street Board, which is probably why I'm on this committee. I'm not a Ben, but my dad was, and my kids are, and I probably own the world record of the number of times I've moved to Nacogdoches. I've moved here 5 times now. And I'm going to move here. I'm 100% sure I'm going to move here a 6th time, and it's going to be in a pine box, you know, at the end. But my quintessential moment, and you'll probably appreciate this, was up on Fredonia Hill at Fredonia Elementary School in the 2nd grade with Miss Nations trying to teach me how to spell Nacogdoches. Not good.
Thank you, Mom.
Nations.
Okay.
Yes, Perky Beisel. I'm here as a representative for the Nacogdoches Historic Landmarks Preservation Committee. I also represent a variety of other historic groups in town. To me, it's the resources not only downtown, but throughout the city. We have a lot of things that, a lot of history that I find around, whether it's industrial history like Lone Star or NIPCO, actually quite fascinating locations to our homes or the cemeteries that I do a lot with. So, or, you know, going many years ago into seeing the vats that were for the modding hair. You know, there's a lot of history that change happens and change is good, but looking for downtown, ensuring that we have a wide range of resources that we protect and encourage.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Perky. Monique.
Hi, I'm Monique Villegas, and I am the student representative on the committee. Trying to think. I have a lot because I've been here since 2017, but I think just being at Steen all the time, because I used to work there.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. Benjamin.
Benjamin Sullivan. I own the Cottage Wine Bar downtown, so I'm a downtown business owner. So really looking to, you know, I moved here about 3 years ago. I discovered Nacogdoches almost 25 years ago, and I always knew back then when I retired I would move here. Life sped a little faster, and I'm here now, and you know, got a thriving business. And really, the quintessential thing is the townspeople. Yeah. This is what makes Nacogdoches, is all these people. And that's what made me want to move here.
What a wonderful thing to say. Well, thank you, Benjamin, for that. I appreciate it. Thank you for everyone that shared your special moment about Nacogdoches. So at this point, I'm going to ask Lisa to share with you a little bit more about the engagement. Lisa.
Thank you, Francois. I'll make sure that this works. Yes. We had dinner at the wine bar last night, by the way.
Was it good? I missed y'all, sorry.
Okay, so obviously this process, we're gonna need to reach a lot of people, right? And so just to give you kind of some background on just kind of our philosophy and how we approach public engagement. So we use this quote, famous planner Jane Jacobs, cities have the capability of providing something for everybody only because and only when they're created by everybody. So that's kind of our ethos of we need to reach all different types of people in the community that are vested in downtown and otherwise, so that we can make sure that this plan reflects, everyone's needs and wants. Obviously, that can be kind of a challenge because some groups, they might have conflicting ideas for what they see downtown being like, right? So the best way that we know how to kind of explain the way that we approach this is with a corporate example and using Toyota. So if you think about Toyota, they've got a lot of different products, right? So they've got the Tundra and they've got the Prius, and those people that want a Tundra are probably very different than people that want to drive a Prius, right? They're looking for different things. They've got the minivans. Those people are, they're looking for something a little bit more family friendly, right? Then they also have customers that have been buying Toyota for decades and generations. And so, like I said, some of those audience groups might seem like they want conflicting things. The truck guys and the Prius people might be a little bit at odds. How are those both a Toyota product? Well, really what Toyota has done and what we're trying to do in this project is what are the common values, the common threads that whether you want to buy a truck, or you want to buy a Prius, a minivan, whatever it might be, what are the common threads that kind of run through all of those different audiences? And I think they would argue that it's quality and dependability, right? No matter what kind of vehicle you're buying, you want it to be quality and dependable. And so we're trying to do that with all the different audience groups, whether it's people that have been in Nacogdoches forever, people brand new to Nacogdoches, people that own businesses in downtown, people that don't, whatever it might be. What are the common values that all of these people share? And then that's going to help us build the plan that, it doesn't overly cater to one group or another, but we're hearing those common threads. And so to do that, we have kind of a lot of different ways to engage people. And the point of this slide here is to show that there's a lot of kind of tools in our engagement toolbox, but those different audiences that I mentioned, they're going to respond to different things. They're going to engage in different ways. Someone might be really willing to come to a public meeting, other groups might not, right? And so this is getting a little squished, so it might be a little hard to see, but there's kind of a whole side on the left, the pink side of more digital tools, and on the blue side is more kind of your traditional focus group, public meeting, that kind of stuff. Per audience, we're going to shape our strategy as what's going to best reach those people. So it's not going to be just the same engagement tactics just for everyone and we get what we get. We'll really make sure that per audience we're thinking about what are the ways that they will respond to engagement, and then kind of tweak our approach to that so we can hear everyone's opinions. So just a couple kind of images of what some of those things look like. So more on the traditional side, your focus groups, workshops, actually going out on the street and talking to people in downtown. But then there's also going to be a lot of online stuff, whether that's like a virtual room, a project podcast, mapping stuff, just kind of to illustrate the point that there's a lot of different ways we'll be engaging with people, and it's gonna look different per audience just based on kind of how they're gonna respond. The other thing, and I'm gonna set the mic down for a minute and just make sure I project, because I gotta go over here to the screen. So, I've mentioned all those groups. What are the ways that they'll engage? But first, we need to identify who are they. And so one thing, I'm not used to a PC, so give me a minute if it looks like I've never used a computer before. Okay, so one of the things that you'll all get is a link to this engagement personas mural. Essentially, this is our way of collecting all of the people and groups that we need to engage as part of this process. And so, I'm under pressure here to figure out how to use this computer real quick. Okay. So across the top, it's broken up into many categories. You see retirees, young professionals, visitors and tourism, city officials, arts groups, cultural groups, etc. And then all of the blue stickies on this thing are kind of subgroups within each of those wider like demographic or interest groups. Essentially, when this gets to y'all, what we need you to do is to throw as many, whether it's like specific contact information, like you need to talk to this specific downtown business owner, here's their phone number, here's their email, whatever, or just like you need to talk to this arts group, you know, but I don't know specifically an email, but like we need to make sure that we reach them. This is how we used to just track like all of those specific groups. And then especially as we get further into the process and we're seeing, oh, maybe we're not reaching a certain group, we can go back to this and see, okay, here's 3 people that we know that are kind of in touch with that group. We can make sure to connect them. So obviously right now this is empty, but the idea is that it gets filled out with names and emails and that kind of thing.
Risa, can you show maybe one of them, how it gets filled in,
Yeah,
and how
I'm
you
going
make more of it as well?
Yeah, so this link, you don't need to download any software or anything like that. But you'll drop, it's essentially like a sticky note kind of system, right? And so let's say that you know, I'm gonna zoom in here. Oh, what happened? Okay, let's say that you know a young entrepreneur that we need to speak to. So what you'll do is over here on this left side, there's a toolbar. This one that looks like a little sticky note. You can actually just drag a sticky directly out onto the board and start typing. Y'all need to, well, that's not even the John, there we go. Y'all need to talk to John Smith, his number is da-da-da-da-da, whatever it is, right? So that's kind of the idea, is that there'll be stickies. You can just drop stickies where you know contacts. Does that make sense? Yeah. Should be pretty easy to use, and then also the first time you get on, there'll be a little like pop-up that comes up that kind of shows you the basics of like, here's how to do this, you know, here's how you move around. And also send a little video as we, when we send it out, so it's just easier, but that's the idea. So I will go back to this presentation and hand it off to Ryan to talk about the next part. 1 second, Ryan. Okay.
Yeah, please do. All right, so next thing we're talking about is project branding, and I know you guys were asked some questions. Typically, we like to have those questions and conversations when we're here, but you guys were meeting in advance, and so we kind of got some questions to you guys earlier. But I first want to talk about the role of project branding. So we're going to do all of this engagement and outreach, and the role of project branding is just to create greater awareness of this planning process so that we get greater participation, and then ultimately when the plan is adopted, we get greater buy-in, because it truly feels like not a plan that was handed down, top down, but it was a plan that was authentically developed from the community by the community. And so the project branding, I think a couple important things to talk about before we sort of pull the curtain back and show you some ideas and things that we've been working on is, one, we're not trying to brand Nacogdoches. Our firm, Civic Brand, we do city branding and district branding all the time, but that's a very long process where we have to do a ton of engagement to even figure out how do we brand a place. This is just branding the project. And so it's so that all of the communications, the project website, the emails, the future slides, the final report, it all looks seamless when people see it. I'm sure you've heard, like in advertising, the rule of 7, people have to see things like 7 times to recognize, oh yeah, that's that thing. We want people, when they see it, they know, oh yeah, that's that project, and my input is being sought. And so they just, as they see that there's a public meeting, a focus group, a survey, whatever it is, they connect the dots back to that. And so I say that because I don't want us to get too caught up on, you know, it's not trying to represent this is Nacogdoches. It's not trying to speak to an external audience of come invest in Nacogdoches. That's not the role of the brand. The role is literally an internal community identity for the project. There'll be a singular project identity because we're going to be doing surveys sometimes for both the comp plan and the downtown plan. Sometimes things are separate. And so it's all going to be under one umbrella so that we don't create confusion and sort of engagement fatigue, because that can be a real thing. You know, when you start to do a lot of engagement, people can be like, oh, I already took that survey. And then you're like, well, no, that was that survey. This is a different survey. So we want to be really effective and efficient and respectful of people's time. And branding is one way that helps us do that. And so the other thing is we are kind of breaking a little bit of our process because, you know, we are pulling that curtain a little bit back. And if there are any designers in the room, you probably know, have heard the phrase that design by committee is not an ideal way to design. And my little joke is that the only thing worse than design by committee is design by two committees. That said, we're pulling the curtain back. We're going to show you guys some ideas that we've explored. We definitely want your input and thoughts. And then we're going to take what we heard from the group yesterday, the comp plan group, from you guys, go back, put our heads together, make some changes, make some revisions, try some new ideas, and then hopefully land on a project identity that everybody is as close to happy with as we can get. And so first, there was 3 themes that we wanted to explore. And when we talk about themes and just why it makes sense, you'll see when we get into naming, I think this came through probably the questions you got, but just to take another project that we've worked on in Las Cruces, New Mexico, we developed this Elevate Las Cruces brand. So when people saw Elevate Las Cruces, they know that, oh, we're trying to elevate and improve the community, my voice is being sought. And not only did that project brand live for the duration of the planning process, they've built that equity in that brand, so that brand can actually live on for future planning processes. Whether they're going to do a parks plan or a site-specific plan, they can do it under that umbrella of Elevate Las Cruces. And there's already some recognition and brand awareness in the community that when I see Elevate Las Cruces, I know my input's being sought. It's a planning project that we're trying to work together on the community. And so in Las Cruces, they were wanting to kind of, you know, when we did the similar exercise, we got terms like, you know, improve and take it to the next level. And things are good, but we want to elevate it. So that's kind of how we kind of arrived at that. And there was also reference to like the Oregon Mountains there. And so we tried to just tie into some natural themes, some goals of the project. So these are the themes that surfaced from the questions that you guys answered, some staff questions in the comp plan. One is the idea of coming together. Not to say that you guys were divided, but just coming together. We want the community to come together and this to truly be a community plan. The second was focusing on ideas of being historic, authentic, and then the last, kind of similar to that Elevate Las Cruces, of improving, evolving, taking things to the next level. So we've got a couple examples for each, and we've also got a couple color themes. We're kind of really looking at purple. Somebody had suggested, obviously, purple from SFA. Somebody had mentioned that that was they felt that that was a very unifying thing. We've also heard the opposite, that, you know, sometimes we want to separate that. We don't want to be too close to that. So definitely interested in your thoughts on that. You'll see options in blue because the city uses blue a lot, and then you'll see options in green because of just kind of the natural environment. So the first in coming together is this concept of knack together. It's a little bit of a play on words of kind of like back together, knack together. Also, there is going to be a project website, so as we think of a name, we want to have an identity that we could really say, yeah, this is the Knack Together project. Go to knacktogether.com. It's very easy to remember. It's not a big, long thing. Obviously, in green, blue, we're also looking at just other brand elements that could work with it. So not just a logo, but as we start to style, you know, charts and maps and reports, and there's buttons on the website, it's always helpful to have some icons and different elements that can kind of flesh out a style guide for the brand. This is another version of that, and you can see here how it's one brand on this example of Knack Together, but then it's the comprehensive plan, and then Knack Together Downtown Master Plan. Trying a version to bring in some of those tree icons. This is the second concept under that together theme of Together for Nacogdoches. Comprehensive plan for our future created together is the tagline down there at the bottom. Again, showing that in some different looks. As I mentioned, this branding will kind of be used in the engagement process, but then might ultimately help style and influence the actual final report and final deliverable. So just kind of a quick potential cover mock-up of what that could look like. The next one, focusing on historic and authentic. So truly Knack was an idea, exploring like truly from an authentic standpoint, showing that in a few different colors. Again, kind of the report styling. This is another one, but giving that a little bit more of a historic context. Some historic photos behind that, shape of Texas, just a different kind of look and feel for that, but the same title. We've heard, obviously, opinions on some people like abbreviating Knack, some people don't. So definitely interested in y'all's thoughts when we kind of get to that here. And then improving, evolving. This one, again, we are pulling the curtain back. I think personally this is, I'm not as big of a fan of this last one. I think the other two are much stronger. This one, I think what we've come up with feels a little bit more like a campaign versus a brand, but we're showing it anyways. And that's what's next for NAC. I think that could be like a cool ad or a slogan or tagline, but it doesn't feel like a brand. It'd be hard to say, go to what'snextfornacs.com. It's kind of a lot. Some of the design ideas though were with the hand-drawn circle, we're gonna have you guys be drawn on maps and kind of working together. And so that was kind of the idea of like planning and let's kind of roll up our sleeves and work on this together. Another look, again, combining some more traditional, like iconic Texas elements with the star, trying to bring in some of that history, photography in the back. And so that's it. And so I'm gonna sit down, but definitely want to hear y'all's thoughts. If you want me to jump back to any, again, it's not as simple as like, here's 6 options, pick one. We want to hear input because we're gonna go back and try additional things, maybe combine ideas, maybe try to new things. But definitely just want your kind of knee-jerk thoughts and opinions. I'll kind of just bounce back through them as you guys are thinking about that. And if anybody wants to say something first, go for it.
Very quiet today, I have to say.
We're looking.
Contemplating.
Yep.
Like you break the seal, then it'll all come. I'll throw a question out there of how do you guys feel about saying NAC versus Nacogdoches? Do you like that? Do you not like that?
I like it. I abbreviate it often, so I don't mind it. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, real Nacogdoches people, when somebody says Nacogdoches versus Nacogdoches, it's fingernails on a chalkboard. And so the best way to eliminate that is say NAC.
And I think as a community, like, we all know we abbreviate Nacogdoches, and so we look for things that are abbreviated. Coming in from the outside, like 10 years ago, like, I can't find anything on Facebook because it was all shortened. It was all NAC instead of Nacogdoches, so.
I text my friend that his parents still live here, he's from here, and I sent him a picture, and he's like, you're in the NAC, and exclamation point, and so. But yeah, we've gotten both sides of that, so.
Ryan, the unity and the NAC together, or the together for Nacogdoches, feels good. The Truly NAC feels like a snack brand.
Yes.
And the logo looks like a snack brand, like Whole Foods 365 or something.
Yes.
I'd eat those chips, yeah, I see what you're saying.
But the together feels kind of unifying and kind of brand, like we're doing this together.
The other one made us look like a Christmas destination with the Christmas trees.
Yeah, I actually like that.
Both trees, but it just made us look like we're a holiday place.
If you take 2 pieces, if you take the NAC together and you use the shape of Texas, I mean, Texas people are arrogant. That's who we are, and we're proud of it. And Texas is, recognizable around the world. And so I think kind of like the Christmas tree thing, I don't know if that works either, but I think if you took NAC together and put that Texas with it instead, you might be getting warmer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's real similar feedback that we got from some of the staff, of that they kind of liked this one, but maybe instead of the trees, the shape of Texas or the stars.
I mean, Texans are weird. They're really proud of that state, even.
I like this when I have the state with the dot where we are.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
I think that I like the neck together and it feels good. It feels warming. The other two feel like kind of cold, and I'm not sure if I got distracted with the font because the first two were like that. That looks very very modern. I mean, like an invitation. Even just that the font is, but the other two, just like Mario said, look like something that I don't want to have on my refrigerator. Like,
yeah.
I don't like the fun. And truly, yes, it's not meaningful to say.
See that? Yeah, these are a little more probably comforting fonts, whereas this probably feels a little more like sports.
And regarding color, I mean, first of all, it's hard to see in here, even with the lights off, and so it's not a fair shot. And I would have come in here betting $100 purple, go Jacks, all that kind of thing. But I really like the green, and I love the way you or somebody said it has to do with the natural, just that's what we are. And even in the middle of the winter, you drive around, the trees are green and all, and green is a, I wouldn't have said that from the beginning, but I kind of liked it after I saw it.
One thing I wouldn't mind seeing is like you've got the Fredonia Hotel with the Fredonia, take the Fredonia off and put Nacogdoches.
Yeah.
That's a symbol of our town. So use that as our kind of eye-popping photograph because it's an iconic building and the script is really good. It kind of plays in kind of any genre.
Sure.
The stone fort one, I had a response to it. It felt kind of travel brochure-ish, historic-wise, and really didn't kind of brand the future.
Well, and that's 2 versions ago, which is already an issue, so we're on version number 3.
Yeah, the stone
That's
fort
right.
building, she means, the stone fort has moved several times.
We're ready for a centennial building. Let's all keep that in mind. Yeah.
And I will tell y'all, it's kind of funny from the responses, I got to see the response from both committees on y'all's questionnaire from last time. The whole the whole Nacogdoches is purple thing kind of depended on how old people's kids were. Because if they had high school kids, it was Nacogdoches is not purple because that's Lufkin. But if they had college kids or were college age, like, no, it's definitely purple because we all went to SFA. And it was just a really funny little thing when I kind of looked at all the results. I'm like, oh, they have high school age kids.
And I mentioned last time that Mario and I and Brian had seen this equivalent committee in Lufkin get the award from their chamber, and I still want to look at that next time. And guess what color it is? Purple. So I lean towards green.
Like
You can always outline the letters in a purple and a thin purple just to get a little bit of the purple in the color.
Yeah, maybe it's a more subtle accent color than.
Yeah, I feel we kind of need to do both, purple and green.
Well, I want to give anybody a chance to say anything, but also we got a lot of stuff that we want to get through. I'll turn it back over to Francois.
Thank you. Thank you. Behind the slides, right? Yes. So we have one more person to be introduced, and it says Jay Anderson, but I'm sure that's not Jay Anderson.
Sorry, no.
What one is yours? Can I?
Well, I don't see mine.
This isn't up there.
I don't know. Hopefully I haven't been kicked off of this committee. Okay.
No, yours should. I don't know where yours went, sorry.
We asked everyone a question.
Sure.
The question we asked was, what is your quintessential moment about Nacogdoches?
That's really hard.
You're on the spot.
Yeah, I'm on the spot. When my daughter, who's now 14, was maybe 3 or 4, we were driving somewhere not in Nacogdoches, and we were in a downtown, and I think there were red brick streets, and I remember she said, are we home? Are we in Nacogdoches? And so, for someone that young that hadn't traveled very much, to identify like being in a downtown space with red brick streets as Nacogdoches, I would say that's probably our quintessential Nacogdoches experience.
Being home. That's
being home.
And who do you represent?
I am the interim director of the School of Human Sciences, but I represent the Nacogdoches CVB. I'm the board chair.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here.
Yes.
Shay.
Yes.
Shay, nice to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Yes.
So the first exercise we're going to do, and that will be run by you. Yes.
Yep.
We're going to look at you sharing a little bit more about opportunities, challenges, as well as low-hanging fruit that is available or potentially can be considered within the downtown environment. So start thinking about that. In other words, what opportunities are there that you think that needs to be thought of? What should we as consultants know about to expand on those opportunities? What are the challenges? What are the issues that we're concerned about? If they're not get addressed, it can become a bigger problem. Or today it is an issue and it's a challenge and it's something to overcome. Let us know about it. But then are those items that we call them the low-hanging fruit. It's those items that they perhaps don't cost that much, but they can have a huge impact. And if you do it right now, we call it the low-hanging fruit, do it now, not too costly, but it's impactful. And we can say something through that, whether it's to show the rest of the community that something's happening, anything like that. Think through those items as being aspects of downtown that is available to think about, to make us aware of, and then make part of the plan. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is opportunities. So anything that you can think about in downtown that has an opportunity that you want to see being built upon, expand upon, utilized, etc. Let's add some thoughts there. And what we will do is, Risa will type out, in short, you may say something a little bit longer, but in short, just capture that thought as an opportunity. So we can build kind of the opportunities one, we will have a challenges one, and we will have a low-hanging fruit one. So, who wants to start?
What about, this is the bad label, but if I had to just put a couple of words, I'd say pocket parks. And let me tell you what I really mean there. We always close Main Street. Every event, we got to close Main Street. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort, et cetera. And if we had, on each side of Main Street, not literally, but the blocks off, if there were areas that were easier for smaller events, you don't have to close the whole road, but you've got these just great little venues. I can't tell you how many people I see in a week, especially in the spring wedding season and in the graduation season, that are walking around the backside of a lot of buildings downtown, taking their pictures for graduation and weddings and things. There's just so many neat brick textures and old windows that aren't the storefronts that a lot of times have been covered up or decorated up or something like that. So, when I say pocket park, I'm not talking about a place just for your dog with a little plastic bag. I'm talking about some defined areas that if I wanted to go down there and have an event, I can just get on the city calendar and say, I want that pocket park by this building or that street or this street. And there might be multiple. I don't think one's good. I think multiple little pocket parks.
There's actually a term for that. We call that urban plazas.
Okay.
So a plaza typically would be more urbanized than a park. A park has lots of green space. Maybe you have some turf. You may have some turf, yes.
Urban plaza.
But it's typically a more hardscape environment. So we call that urban plazas. And they're not big. They can be as small as 10 feet by 10 feet, or they can be 100 feet by 100 feet, depending on the use or the purpose or the location that it is. So definitely the first one I would say is urban plazas. Can we make them big, Risa? Or even, if we don't make the text bigger, can we? Doesn't matter. So that's the first one, urban plazas. Anything else that comes to mind as an opportunity?
Food trucks, sorry.
Mario?
I think we have an opportunity to draw businesses back into the city center because it is such a small town. I feel like they've been all drawn out to North Street and University, and those are heavily trafficked areas, and they're designed to take business away from downtown. And so we don't even think about what it would look like if they were invited back in.
And all that means is you provide an opportunity for them to make it possible for them to be here. So yeah, drawing back businesses.
What types of businesses?
Does something come to mind, what type of business you would like to see?
I just, there's cafe culture, family restaurants.
Bike shop.
Different things, clothing stores, bike shops, retail, stationery stores, your typical thing you would see in a small walkable town.
Exactly. Good point. No, thank you, Mary. There was something over here, someone's opportunity. Yes.
Okay, sorry. No, go ahead. I was saying we're start seeing food trucks and, not every day, but we were talking about some days closing some of those streets, pockets of streets, and then having that opportunity to, not necessarily, like a big area, but there's, having some benches here and there where people can just go and just have a good food.
Well, actually, what you talk about food trucks and work well with the plazas.
Exactly, that would be perfect.
Exactly. Make sure that if you have a plaza, that the food truck can actually be.
Yes.
Good point. Yes, Brandy.
We need some water stuff water features downtown.
Water features,
Uh-huh.
yes. And what comes to mind? What type of?
I actually have in my list, I have some websites that I'll give to Jessica to show you, but a couple of them that I was thinking is ones that can obviously be closed down and still function as a walking space. Like in Austin, they have some brick ones that are just bricks and the little fountains come up right out of the bricks. And so, yes, and then in Tulsa, I was at one that they actually had a built up, it almost looked like a planter, but then they had big rocks in it that had water and the kids could climb up on it and, you know, use it. But then when kids weren't there, it was still like a really peaceful place to just hang out, so.
Good point. So it's multifunctional in a sense from that point of view. Thank you, Brandy. Yes, Mark.
Some tiny stages. How many of you ever gone over Saturday morning, sat around, listening to Steve, and then pick and grin in front of the general store? I mean, why not replicate that like 5 times? And so that would be my easy one. I'd say tiny stages. And
Yes.
this is videotaped, and I'm, probably gonna get a call from all my friends tonight when I get home. But in conjunction with that, I'd love to be able to go to, the cottage and get a glass of wine, and there's a band playing at Pocket Park 1, there's a band playing at Pocket Park 2, and I'd like to walk down there with my glass of wine and listen to somebody pick.
It's an ABC issue.
And walk across the street, but I think there's some look at, it's not a physical thing, but there's some look at some city methods and ordinances and TABC and whoever is how do you make that all of those venues come together, so I can go in here and have a burger, and then I can go down there and have a glass of wine, then I can go over and listen to the musician, and I don't have to stop what I'm doing. It's a continual evening or afternoon in the downtown.
But we have a natural park for that. We've got the Freedom Park, we've got the creek going through there. We have a natural water source for doing that.
Yeah.
We could build, the city could build little buildings that businesses could rent, a small coffee shop, a little wine bistro, that we could have that, clean that whole creek area up where we have the water feature, the walking feature, benches, areas for food trucks to park at, power in that.
And intersect it with Lanana Creek.
And yes, and then create a walking path from both sides of downtown, from the east side and the west side, to converge to that area. Then we have that draw of people coming to downtown, parking in downtown, so they're gonna walk around, then they go to the parks, and then we also have the stage already there, and we create more stages as well too.
What I hear there is we had the Pocket Park, then we had the food truck, then we got back to the stage, and now we have the events that can happen all over the place, because every little plaza makes it possible to have an event.
And we have a little bit of all the above, we just don't tie it together very well.
Well, it's what Houston's done with Buffalo Bike.
Right.
They're really building that up as a destination to go and be by the water, turn the world off. You're in a huge urban space, and they're really trying to make that more where you feel like you're with nature.
Absolutely.
So that's a little bit refined.
So one of the things that I've had some experience with, and again, TABC can be a little funky to work with, but there's festival districts. If you've been to Fredericksburg, you have an experience where you can walk around. So there should be some ways that you guys could create some designation and create a festival district and
Which we do with the wine swirl already.
Yeah.
Downtown off. So we're already doing that.
There's a definite interest, I think, in arts vendors, small arts vendors to be downtown, and maybe not necessarily as a part of a bigger event, but, on a Saturday, like in Austin, on Guadalupe, they used to have the arts vendor area like on 23rd Street in Guadalupe that was closed off, and people could rent, they were permitted to be there, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be in conjunction with a big city event. So, something like that would also bring people downtown.
Absolutely, I can see that, yes.
Well, a lot of times those small towns have like the fourth Friday of every month, just where artists, wines or whatever. We probably can't walk around, but you could still go down and
Absolutely,
trucks around.
that's a good point.
And you have plenty of SFA people to bring their arts in.
That's right, absolutely. Anything else? Yes, John.
Our least attractive area downtown is the one with the most potential, I think, to solve several things at once. And that is the sloping parking lot to the south of Regents Bank. It can solve parking problems. It can create possible seating, distant seating for those of us who don't like the amplification quite so much, for the Festival Park Music Arena. And the only really expensive thing about, in this case, two-level parking is ramps. And with that setting, you don't have to have ramps. So it's a multi-use solution to a problem, and it is the least attractive part of downtown.
Which you actually then improve. What a great opportunity, I agree.
No,
Where was that again?
the Regents Bank parking lot.
Okay.
But it's privately owned
Doesn't have to be.
Right.
by a Canadian.
Can always be encouragement.
Yes.
Can I say something?
Yes.
The city of Waxahachie, if any of y'all ever visit Waxahachie, has undergone a major downtown renovation. And one thing they did, very similar to what's being discussed right now, is right just south of downtown, but part of downtown, is they built a small but very accessible amphitheater that elevates down to a creek area that they're gonna completely renovate and everything, but it's really, and then they're gonna do other things too. I'm not sure, my daughter lives there and I visit frequently. But anybody that might wanna go online and see what they're doing, that is amazing what they're doing. And it might, that town of Waxahachie has a lot of similarities to Nacogdoches.
It has, and I know that.
Somebody's doing something right.
Absolutely.
in Waxahachie.
Well, thank you for sharing.
I've got one.
Yes, Greg.
Somewhat similar to what she's talking about Waxahachie. Has anybody ever been to First Friday in Bryan?
Yes.
So my understanding, Bryan, the town, was somewhat struggling with their downtown while College Station is over here booming. My son's a senior at A&M and he was telling me about this. So what they have this First Friday, which is similar to all these, there's music and there's different venues on this First Friday. But what they did is they advertised it at College Station. So they drew from this 68,000 students of College Station, they drew them into Bryan, and it's turned into, it's a big deal.
So what you talk about is how can we get the SFA
Yeah, exactly.
students.
That's kind of where I'm leaning,
for
yeah.
events and for these opportunities for entertainment, whatever it may look like.
Yeah, but also all of our local, towns that are surround us.
Exactly, yeah.
They come in to eat
Pretty
and
much.
shop in our town, left and right.
What works at Bryan, and it's hard to do, but they've got gravity because there's more vendors and more retailers, no matter kind of what they do. If it's the hat maker or the music store, but everybody participates and brings their store from the inside out. That's critical to get majority of the people involved, and it really activates the street and it gives people a reason to go. So rather than, one guy on one block and somebody else, you really almost have every business involved in some way. Even if their wares don't make sense, they'll bake cookies and sell cookies or something just to be active on the sidewalk.
Okay, you wanted to mention something.
Yes, I would like to see more and better accessible public restrooms. I think that's a big issue for people spending an extended amount of time in any of these events.
In a sense, you start to talk now about challenges. There's a challenge that there's not enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, Monique.
Signage to what we have. Most people don't know where they are.
Or signage, yeah, exactly.
Something to add, I think we should add more murals downtown, just because as a FIS student myself, and being a part of a sorority, we used to go take pictures downtown. So I think that would draw a lot of students, and there's a lot of restaurants that I didn't even know existed until we went down there to take those pictures. So I think the Art Exchange has that side that y'all could possibly add a mural or something that's cute, Welcome to Nacogdoches or something, that would probably be welcoming, and then bring students to downtown.
Absolutely. Yeah, more murals, absolutely.
Yeah, experience new things and stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Yes.
Another thing that would be very nice for visitors and for kids and even for schools is having around a little, let's say, information about the town, historical information. I think not necessarily because we found throughout in downtown, there's very small places where you can find, this statue or this, whatever it was. But if we can find, just around different places, just whenever you go to the zoo and then you see, it not necessarily has to be under something that is representative, but if we can have a little picture and informational sites that whenever visitors come, they can actually, just going by downtown, get out with more information about, the history or important things that we think is important for people to know, that they just come to downtown to an event, but they didn't have a time to visit, the SF trails or, little things that we also have to offer. But then if they will be able to see like a tiny picture or something that is iconic for Nacogdoches, it might bring an opportunity for them to come back and visit and say, you know what, I did not know that Nacogdoches also had this. But also I can see that as an opportunity to bring our elementary kids, high school kids, on a tour to downtown, just a historical, just to come and visit, but then having that information there available. And it can be in a different place, but just having just little sections of historical information about the town.
So what you talk about is not informational, but more interpretive signage that interpretive a little bit about what are these little places in downtown.
And yes, and not necessarily because a lot of the places are not gonna be in downtown, but then somehow having, information available so they can see.
Obviously, there's the information center, you can get brochures and things like that, but that's not what you talk about. You don't talk about brochures. You talk about something physical that people can go and sit, read outside.
Yes, and I need to find somewhere where I can have an example, but
Sure.
yes.
Yes.
Jessica, this one's for you. I think we need some gateways. I mean, I think I've every meeting. I mean, I love it when you go to some of those towns, like I went to the first year they ever did Mardi Gras on the Strand. And when I was a kid, you didn't go to the Strand unless you were doing something you weren't supposed to. And now it's a completely different thing. And you go and they've put those, I don't want Mardi Gras, gates or anything, but they put those up and man, you feel like you've arrived. I'd love to see our lights, I think are magnificent. We need to add as many lights as possible, but it'd be neat if not one area into town, but everywhere you're coming into kind of that, what you call the red square or whatever, that, and I'm here, I finally found downtown. I'd love to see some ways to mark that.
Actually, what it is, Miles, the two things about this. A gateway, I also call a threshold. It's the moment that when you step in, now you're in the place. Before you step in, you're not there yet. Now that same moment of a threshold creates a memory. Next time you come there, you see that and you'll be reminded of your last memory. So it's memories that you build. The other thing that you talk about is the place that now I've arrived. Once you're through the gate, now you come to the place that you arrive. It's almost like that space area, the square, to me, that is that space. But then we may find another one or define another one.
But we technically have that space, but it's totally not used. We right at Johnson's Furniture where the old well was. That is like the perfect place to put something like that, but it is a planter.
But we have an exercise, just after one of these exercises right today, we have a map and we're going to ask everyone, you also, Miles, to tell us where those gateways need to be. So think about that. Anything else you want to share about opportunities, challenges? Yes.
In response to the gateway issue, which I think is a wonderful subject, there is a really neat way to do that, along with solving a list of other problems. When we get to the point of trying to define what is Nacogdoches and where do we say it is, there's an extremely simple solution. And when we get to that point, I'll put that forth. It's the 1846, and this is legitimate and can be located by surveying it. It creates 4 gateways, almost by itself. The 4 compass points. And it includes a variety of people who do not feel that they are currently included in the downtown itself. So, having said that little spiel, we'll do that when we start talking.
I'd love to hear that. That's excellent.
What is downtown? And how are we going to define it?
Brandy and then Mario. Yes, Brandy.
I think some of the challenges are the times that some of the businesses are open downtown. If you do go downtown for dinner, there's not really much to go to. even if it was just on the weekend, but I've been down there at 4:30 on Saturday. Like, there's nothing open.
Opening times, yeah. And that's a big thing. And sometimes you want to stay open till 9.
Yeah, and I know that's hard for businesses, and I get that, but gotta figure that out.
Mario.
I do want to say one of the challenges going back to attracting businesses, and I brought this up a couple of meetings ago, is are those buildings obsolete for today's 21st century business? When you attract somebody, can they use those buildings in the current form they're in? Do they have to retrofit? Are they not safe?
Exactly, that's a good point. In other words, the challenge is the buildings that you want to utilize, can they be utilized today with today's codes, issues with regards to safety, etc.
Because those businesses will say no and move on.
Exactly. How do you prepare those places? Yes, Brandon.
So everyone I have talked to says that parking is an issue downtown, but when I investigate further what they're talking about, it's all festival parking and not daily parking, which I think is two different issues.
Yes.
But I think that maybe some of that can be fixed with other things like golf cart things that are driving from further parking lots, or even parking maybe on the other side of Bonita Creek, that there's not a bridge currently across the creek, but there is some space over there for parking, maybe. I know it's private, but there might be some possibilities for new parking lots that for festivals, that's not too far away.
Good idea. So there's a problem, but there's also a solution to that. If more idea thought, yes.
Part of the problem with parking is it wouldn't be bad to park a mile away if there was something to look at on your way to where you're going. I mean, safety, crossings, whatever. Right. But, like going downtown, there's tons of empty buildings. Yes. But if you go to look at them, they're in disrepair, and the cost, which I've seen a couple people just walk away or sell them. Yeah. And they've just been left empty too long to where it's astronomical to bring them back up to be able to use them.
To make it usable, exactly. Right. I hear that. Anything else that comes to mind? Yes, Brandon.
Maybe some better lighting. I know we have good lighting in some places downtown, but walking in some areas, there's not a lot of light. So I think that's going to be a thing if we want to stay open later.
Absolutely, that is always necessary, I agree. Anything else that comes to mind? Because then we're going to go to the next exercise.
I think if Ann was here, I would hope she would chime in too, but I do think we have some handicap accessibility. Yes. And when you say handicap, it's also kids in strollers, and it's just, our downtown is like this, and we've done a little bit, but there's just a tremendous amount of work to be done there. And I know that's a lot of money, but you just got to call it like it is.
Ryan, before I step off this particular exercise, anything else that you think I should ask or get out of this?
I think this has been great.
Does it help you?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Ryan is putting all of this together in a wonderful way, so thank you, Ryan. So the next exercise we're going to do is we're going to break up in 2 groups, and I'm going to ask each group to define the 5 most important core values of downtown, specifically downtown. And then, once they've done that, to write a vision statement for downtown. So, and I want you to be very specific about not more than 10 minutes on the one. Get those ideas quickly out, 5 to 10 minutes. And then the next one, 5 to 10 minutes. Because we want to have your thoughts just going, get it down, and have it up there. And then we're going to share it with each other. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I must decide where.
I'm leaving. Don't count me.
We're losing one here. She's got to go to another meeting, so.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Right there. So this group, and what we will do is we'll give you a
easel,
and you will write here. They won't see what you do. And you will write here, they will see what you do. Okay, let's get that going.
I gave her one.
This is y'all's easel.
I can tell you with confidence, you do not want me doing the writing.
Yeah, exactly.
So who can write? Do you have good handwriting?
Very nice handwriting.
Okay, congratulations. Good handwriting.
birthday.
See y'all. And if y'all want to, this is y'all's easel, if you want to turn it or do it, if y'all want.
I want to talk about it.
Just stand up over here, what do y'all think? Yeah, nobody can read my writing. I want to see it, that'd be cheap.
And there's your easel right there.
No? Yeah. That one must come here.
Have a seat. Core value side. You're over there.
Hang on one second.
You can still sit over here with us. Somebody else to our group.
Behind the ring.
Oh.
So yeah, so you step in here, you stand right.
Can we step with her?
And you guys can sit around and,
I want to protect her from y'all.
yeah.
Hey, Laura, you here? I guess we're moving over here. That's okay.
And then we want to come here around.
Values as far as two places at once. Here, Laura, you're
Right here.
coming up with 4 values for your
I
town.
know, I know.
Wheelchairs also be able to walk.
Mario,
I did.
why don't you come here? Why don't you come around?
Are we on the wrong one?
Yeah,
I'll bring her.
you can use that one. No. Yeah, if you step around.
Okay. And I would probably say. We'll probably just have to get a new piece of paper.
It's supposed to.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, guys.
Safety.
Those that are perfect. Is that vision or values?
Well,
This is values, this is vision statement. You have any?
I don't hang out downtown.
The history, I mean, the historical or whatever.
But if you did, what would be important? Okay.
culture. It has been a for culture.
Historical, cultural. You see what's happening here, right? These things are holding us mouth. The ways tied to these, we're not able to. You want your child to stay 4 years old. Can we improve on that?
Yes. No.
Okay.
Grow up and make
More value. John, what about downtown?
Diverse. Yeah, flex is a bad word, I knew that.
Haven't come up. You're our resident expert.
community. I don't know if that's about.
Our historic aspect of it.
Yeah, I was.
That would be value.
Mine is just connection. I like that.
People go there to be connected.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's cultural, historical, safe.
Is it important for us to have people living downtown? I don't know if that's something that that should be of value.
But do any of us experience the livability?
Entertaining.
I haven't, so I don't know.
As we're members of the group.
But is it? It's not necessarily what personally value. The downtown area should value. So should they value people living down there? And if they do, then they need if we value people living there.
Residential.
I almost want to put bricks.
Also things like buy food.
Commercial. Have residential. Is that commercial too?
Okay. How do we work these into 5?
So now,
That's what they said. We need to come up with 5 core values. What's the most important about what we come up with?
connection.
People go there to be connected.
Yeah.
They go there because it is.
Safety.
I mean, so is downtown Austin.
I feel like Nacogdoches in general is fairly safe. So
Right,
I don't know if we have to
I like that actually.
I have to walkability.
like.
I mean, I'm not handicapped, but there's some curbs that are just not conducive.
I wonder if there's a different word we can use for walkability.
Now they heard about.
Accessible.
Yeah. Yes. Accessibility. That's the one. So cross off safety and walkability, I think.
Nice, I like it.
So this one?
Yes. Yeah, no safety and you can take those.
That's easy.
Ah, nice.
All right, yay. On three, 1, 2, 3. Yay. All right. Done.
Wow, multi-use on everything, yeah.
So this is one of ours right here, 3?
Yeah.
I think so.
3?
I love that.
And here, historical books. Mine too.
Yes.
If it goes over well,
Just put a slash.
Flash culture. Sorry. Because those are the two, the same thing. It's part of the
don't be peeking, don't be peeking. Cheater, cheater.
That's Sullivan.
And the hell.
I'm with y'all now.
Voting behind. Thank you.
You want to say diverse now?
And he said,
How about?
So our first group is done.
Yes, I love it.
That's fine, but the name must be big.
I love it.
It's memorable.
Y'all gotta get to the vision though, that's where power is, man.
1, 2, 3, 4.
they had a big today. Y'all always having fun, just.
And we want it to
I'm good.
Be careful.
Quite a week.
I
I kind of feel like,
Monday off, never working.
Because then you get back and you're like.
Maybe we can take out safety
I know.
Uh-huh.
history or culture.
or family friendly.
Yeah,
Oh, family friends.
I don't know. Broncos here to take miles.
I like those 5.
But if it's never open,
Prep for all this.
family friendly,
I just want to go home and get in bed.
Sometimes we don't want
I was asking Chris, I wonder how the
Those are good.
doors are not.
Lights building.
You go to.
Okay, guys, we have to write down the vision statement.
Okay.
So what's our vision statement?
Nacogdoches, downtown Nacogdoches.
They've done that a couple times.
Don't say destination. Think for downtown.
Every year they end up emailing me pictures of the front of their building. Every year I just want to go back and look. No, I haven't.
We have connection. I use memorable. We're trying to.
Find some.
The biggest vision is to grow it.
Space.
Nope, sure don't.
When it's welcome.
Is that my mom?
Yes.
Is that the one that I asked my mom? She's always trying to find a picture of the front of her building, and it's hard. There's
really?
not very many.
No, this is for the old Story Ride building. Yeah, Story Ride, Wyatt's.
It is the biggest problem. Well, it has been. But one of them is parking. There's 7 parking places.
Unless you,
Or never open.
unless you use the basement.
Get the dealership also taking over half of the Patterson.
I like it.
Second floor is fine.
Back that into the parking lot.
It's welcoming.
With the empty chair.
Yes, I love that.
All right.
15 times.
Y'all done?
Pictures
All right, we're good. Ron?
in the chair.
It is, it's an interactive sculpture.
All right, now, y'all, we have a second step to this.
All right, you bunch of type A personalities, go back to your chairs and sit down. When you ask, from our side must come and tell us about this. Someone from our side must come and tell us about this. Then share each other.
What'd they come up with? They were neater things.
Hey, Ben, you can be our mouthpiece. Sure. Because people are tired of me already. So, who's the spokesperson for this? Yeah.
I will be.
Come. And spokesperson for this is?
I can.
Mario.
I can do it.
All right, so our core values is downtown. Most of all downtown is local businesses, so I would say that. I think I'm pretty family friendly. Haircuts, all kinds of events, things that go on downtown. We have a very diverse downtown of businesses and people. We're historic, and we are also known for our brick streets, and we would like more brick. Mission statement, oldest town, newest destination.
Woohoo, simple. Benjamin, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Comments from the other group, or question, let me ask this group, anything to add to that? From what Benjamin just shared? Anything to add? Laura, you are new. I haven't seen you yet.
Yes, I'm sorry I was late.
So we ask everyone a question, and we want you to just answer us, please. What is your quintessential moment of Nacogdoches?
Tough one.
No pressure.
I'll give you a few moments. I know
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
still quickly on you, but I'm going to ask that.
Like an experience or just
Or a place. Or a place.
Your first aha about Nacogdoches.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Miles.
Well, I mean, I guess just first time I drove down on the brick streets, it just felt like I was going back in time. And it's.
More bricks.
The atmosphere.
More bricks.
And more, architecture is important. To me, you go to any really great tourist town and architecture, it makes it. So I think the effort of keeping our buildings, looking good and functional and, keeping that old time feel is important.
And Laura, who do you represent?
Well, I have my own company. I am an architect, actually, so.
Could you tell from her answer that she's an architect?
She's downtown.
Downtown.
Yeah, so that's, and I work downtown. I'm on Main Street, so.
Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate that. So thank you, Benjamin, for sharing. So now, Mario, who's the spokesperson on yours?
I'll go ahead and share from here. So we listed some of our values, which included safety, it's historical, cultural, we had connection, residential, commercial, accessibility. Actually, let me stop there, because we were looking at historical and cultural, combining those to memorable, and what we heard earlier, and then residential and commercial to multi-use. So we were brainstorming, and we thought we wanted to create a space where everyone is welcome and connected. Not technology connected, but connecting with humans.
So I'm going to read the two statements again. First one says,
Connected.
oldest town, newest destination. Great contrast, I love it. The next one says, create a space where everyone is welcome and connected. Very different, but very valid, both of them. So thank you for your time and putting that together, I appreciate that. So the next exercise, we're going to start doing what Miles is so excited about doing today, and that is we're going to work on a map. So we're going to get a big map, each group, a map like that, and we want you to do a few things. We want you to identify gateways. Just take this down quickly for a second, please.
The gateways are off.
And we'd like for you to share on a map gateways, where they should be, the ideal boundary of downtown, if it is not where it should be today, where you think it ideally should be, connections to surrounding areas, and we can actually put it on the screen. Special places in downtown, places that need improvement. And then lastly, places for large group gatherings, 100 people or so, or more. So again, I'm going to throw it on the screen. In fact, if I go down there, it should, no, I'll go down quickly. So, oh, there it is. So the first exercise we did, the second one we did, and now this one. I want to make it big, everyone can see. Oh, there it is. So, each one of you can, on a map, identify those places, please. So, again, two groups, each will get a big map, and we put it on
Yeah, there's one big map over here on this table, and then there's some up here on the walls.
Go for it.
Do we want stickies or markers?
We have expo markers you can write on there.
Somebody grab a marker. Okay. Okay. Where's the you are here?
Taking your mark. I want to color code.
Is it the one with the red?
We don't want to call it a square.
Of course not. So farmers market, the convention center, county courthouse.
If you look at this, you got universities over there.
This is where the pottery studio is?
Yes.
If you look at this, and if you go over here and you try to work farmers market, county.
And this would be where Clear Springs.
Man, that's almost.
That's the railroad depot.
That would be where our center.
No, that's the railroad.
Is this what he's talking about?
So
It was awful.
this is kind of like.
So I guess it's bigger than here.
And then I would say.
To me, downtown is like.
That's the railroad depot.
So my thought though is that with the 69, I-69 corridor happening,
Yeah, I would.
we need to, so right there, I want the entrances this way because I want people to get off that exit sometimes. And like, when I'm traveling on an interstate,
I'm blocking it.
I look for park that's downtown.
I can't give you more details.
Recording it or?
That I travel with, like, there's me and the map that I can pull up, and we go to a park, and we let the kids run around while the adults eat. And so for me, like, that's super.
So we do have that, John.
So,
Are we thinking, like, where's our university? Where?
I don't know, I would say that's at least this.
Let's watch the give an ask her just in a second.
Like something big over here saying downtown is this way, you know?
Right, so that's up on the side.
But we should ask John, he's got thoughts on the gateways.
Okay, well then you want to go on?
Yes, down, I don't know what the next one is.
What's the best?
Ideal boundary for downtown and connection to surrounding areas, so how does it connect to surrounding areas?
Yeah, it's. Well, see, my office is right here, 20 minutes from it, so I'll leave that up for us to use that part.
So I'm not a representative to
This, I love this.
Okay, so where is your ideas for?
He's going to print, or Jessica's going to print off
That's kind of the approach that we take.
probably in this week. We don't want to call it the red square.
So where did it go for?
It's outside of this. That's why she's going to print for Jessica.
So let's
Remember?
so that we have festivals.
Instead of trying to describe it here, let's wait.
Okay, please.
There's comp plan group that we.
So you're almost.
Several events for.
Well,
So where are special?
Downtown.
Maybe this right here has to be.
Was in 1846.
It's going to be in place where we're almost.
1 mile square. Make sure genuine, it's not hokey or created, but actually the original 1846 Republic of Texas.
Right here. And then the gateway out here.
It picks up,
Where is,
includes one part of.
Sorry, no, you're fine.
you almost gotta pick that up.
Even like.
See, and that still works, so this is circular, and what we're really saying is it needs to
Other
be.
things tend to.
Where's the, but it's not,
Yeah.
Demise.
Where is this cemetery? So.
For better or
So you almost try to pick up a trail, almost mark your route to here and coming across somewhere in this area. This is Logansport.
Our street could be a special place, like places that need improvement, maybe put that as an E, because that's where we walk downtown.
So you almost want to gateway at this bridge
So
here.
E, an E. Close down for it to walk.
And so now we've got to figure out, going up, obviously there's got to be one on Mound Street somewhere.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Opinions?
Probably maybe right here.
What do you think?
We thought the same about it. It's not always one, so, we thought the same about it.
And Church Street too.
I love it. That's a gateway. I like gateways. You know what? You know what? If you go down here, we hear
Especially
stories
if you're
about
you're not usually parking there, and it's not like anyone's, like, we're walking there
You
anything.
also have a gateway over in there, so that if you're, who knows which way you channel.
Because everybody's parked there.
Especially the vehicles use this part. That's No, I have to drive it because I have to drive it.
They put F here too. Commerce, because that could be a large group gathering.
I feel like I need a four-wheel drive when I drive now. What is that?
A large group gathering, 100 plus.
Even over here.
No, we talked about that last time, right?
Yeah.
That trail's bad, rather not do it. And we're going to that bridge, you're really going.
There is potential here, y'all.
Okay, put it,
But for what?
places that need improvement. And F. Be both.
Hypothetically, this could all be developed.
Gateway?
And somewhere in here, come across a multi-purpose, just like that.
So, we're waiting for the, so, but I think we should at least.
That's,
Liberty Hall. This right here.
That's, yeah.
Is that an F?
F.
Idea of boundaries for downtown.
That's a place people go to, it's a destination.
We can make this circle.
What about a special area?
And almost go like this.
Here you go, John.
Oh, there we
My
go.
printer was slices from store, did not want to do that.
What about this?
So, and I have a
Okay.
few extras, if y'all would like to use them right here.
Places that need improvement.
I bet if we, it'd be interesting.
Can I office space it? So much. It's like, I'll go to print, and I'll flash it in.
What if Apple came in and said, I'm gonna buy this?
So it'll, copies just, I got.
So, I mean, yes, no, because I used to office
Done that really.
we ended up connecting.
And then ours is print,
So you connect to this area, it's connected to three.
It's just so empty.
Really, we actually found some new ones. They had these.
There's a major artery, like
So,
gateway.
this is the
Gateway.
That's
Same thing.
And there's parking across from, because that's Clear Springs and, right?
And
What
there's
about this section?
market, you can survey it all.
Is there?
Okay, special places. Well, I think.
Obviously, I'm
It's not so much that right there, which is floodplain. I'm an SFA guy, and I hate the same floodplain.
When we did,
Everybody knows that. This ought to be our statute. I don't know still know the things. It ought to be a secret. because of this.
Volunteer for me?
Well, the old water fountain and all, you know, remember how it used to go around it, they took that out and all.
Nothing more fun.
You know, I still believe that they don't like to respond timely.
This president,
Nacogdoches.
from, but I mean, in fact, it's Austin.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but like, I don't know if they were read about Main Street and like.
Homestead restaurant, you remember that? You know what I'm talking about? There's a show called Homestead Restaurant. And it's on those channels and all those shows. And I saw him miss the turn, and I looked at the he was going up this way. And because the way Johnson Fisher said, you never look around to the right, he was about right here, and I was at the red light trying to go to the bank. And I looked at him and I said,
So he's saying, here's
that night I had an event at the hotel, and guess what? Because they were filming over an outlet.
That makes a lot more people.
He got down here, and I figured out how to go back over the hotel. So obviously that's kind of a special place. One reason is we don't have a courthouse that sticks up. We do have the hotel for Duncan that sticks up.
Isn't that right here, like right here? Yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
I wish we could build the courthouse back, you know?
How do you figure out how to make it look prettier, you know, for all blocks?
Which
For the
makes
wall.
So those are two special places.
It goes all the way out to the church,
So
so right
We
here.
need to talk about special places.
I think that
And I really think, so this is parking lot right here.
we don't want to be like where they just go around Nacogdoches.
It's real weird to me. I used to don't convey it. People drive about parking, building acres down there parking, and it's not.
It has in its area.
We don't have those things down here. It's either downtown or where? Festival Park.
Got the large houses right there.
Is.
What more could you want for it? You know, I would say that, I would say somewhere walking trail.
Or the art tours, like there's a bunch of houses in here where you go and look at art tours, like. I don't know, if I could see it being as happening.
It's already a privilege.
Yeah, because that's
About 4 months.
right?
But we'll cut it through here, so we, okay, places that need improvement.
So this could be a gateway here?
Black.
How much more time do you guys have?
I would say probably.
That's maybe, that's kind of draw you in, if it's way over here.
How much more time do you need, Robert?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes, Miles. Okay.
And then here, is that too far? I mean,
Okay, but do we have any control over any?
Yeah, I would say this, and I would say every Friday do the same thing back here.
this is where it is.
And you've got,
But you don't know, I think I need to push through.
Yeah, everybody does.
I don't really lose that. But I do cut down.
This map will show you.
And then you're like, oh, what am I need to like look and see what's going on, but as I go.
Johnson, the high points here, the vantage points.
I know why,
To
because then there's no place to
this church, Steve Mill, the water tower over here.
Probably these views right out of the it's the best look.
And it's gonna be a fun picture.
So, places for 100 plus people.
Which around Red House, yeah,
So easy to shut off. because
Church Street.
All of these
this
businesses
is where
that
the
are right
bridge
here all have mechanisms, and they all go
When
into
they,
the
when they used to do that, just for the Dia de los Muertos, I don't really.
Obviously this one, and then obviously we got this one, places where
somewhere.
thousands of people there.
That's First Baptist.
That's Baxter. That's the one that drops on real quick.
So the school district owns all this.
That's kind of the plan unless you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the whole.
Yeah, I agree. That's it. Powers.
Yes, the private, but you can say
That's John Mass.
Powers.
If we're going to use it, we've got to use it larger.
All room.
I'm going to do that because it was gonna be.
So here's Baxter.
And we found out y'all scheduled to match with that, and that's right in the middle of spring break, and so we replace it.
You almost wonder too,
It's
Arrow.
Because y'all are assuming that everybody in here wants to be downtown, right?
there's not an area like this,
Yeah, because
where that creek area and businesses could be developed.
I mean, there's
I assume.
no downside.
Yeah.
It's just more, to me, it would
Almost,
more.
where's the dog park? That's the dog park right there. You almost want to do this right
What
there.
I'm saying, Sam.
As much as I'm trying to sell it, area with the existing 1846 circle, we have to either use it.
A little more challenging.
Where would the gateway make sense?
It would be further up.
So you put it on the same Yeah, so it would technically be there by, I think, that road, that really awkward intersection. That's horrible.
The church, Presbyterian church.
Townhouse.
Yes, that's like a super awkward.
That's what's throwing me off because it's like
Yeah.
strips in there and an awkward.
Once you get in this.
But then right after that, like, I always miss, the little house that's there. Because I'm always like, no, it's not here yet, you know, because of the strip center area. If there was a gateway there,
Fantastic.
then you
So,
might notice it beforehand, so I think it's pretty valid.
so if you guys want to huddle around here, we can do that. You don't want to come and sit. You want to huddle around here and do that? So. Okay, awesome. Who's your spokesperson, Mark? Me this time. You. So if you guys can stand a little bit back. And we want you guys to hear as well. Who's the spokesperson on you guys? Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do is you guys come around. We're going to ask Miles to show us how they came up with their different items there. And after that, we're going to ask Mario. Maybe just not huddle around that.
So a couple of things that we tried to push ourselves. It's easy to think as is. And we also wanted to think about what's out there that we haven't developed and thought of that hadn't even been scratched yet. So we're not completely as crazy as you think we're about to be. But we think downtown, defined area has to be pulled beyond North Street down to at least the farmer's market. Well, and I'll tell you why we thought that in a minute, why we stopped there. We think it's more of an oblong. It needs to pick up more of the soccer park complex, and we need to do some work down there in the park area and somehow tie it all into the trail that goes all down through here. And you know, we thought, really and truly, I don't know that we go all the way, you know, the hospital district gets in the way a little bit at some point in time, but basically we think it's more of an oblong shaped area, that there's a lot that could be developed in here, and you've got the New Zion Church being redone, and trying to be sensitive to other cultures that we often forget about and overlook. And if you think that way, then when we got to gateways, the reason we stopped here is there's some natural bridge gateways. So you got the bridge right by the farmer's market. You come down here, you got the bridge where it's coming over the overpass, you know, that's coming over just south of town. You know, this is a community area that we don't include enough. And you go over there on, what's the name of that street? I don't remember, but Church Street, you can have a gateway there, because you got to realize when they get through doing, you know, I-69, entry into town may change. You know, they may be driven in from a different way. You come out here, pull a downtown down towards, you got another bridge there, just shy of University Drive. And that gave us another gateway. You go up here, you've even coming in this area, if you're coming down University Drive and there's an entrance, let's, say North 69 causes them to exit way up there and come in that way and come down through University Drive. You got a gateway here. You got a gateway down on Mound Street where you're transitioning from the hospital district to the downtown district. We thought areas that kind of points of interest, obviously the farmer's market. There used to be a fountain here, if you're old enough, you remember, and you had to drive around it and all that. To us, that's almost a center point. It's not a gateway. It needs to be something that you say that's the center of town, So we thought that was a special place. We circled the Hotel Fredonia, obviously all the right historical reasons, but here's the deal. We don't have a courthouse that sticks up like Waxahachie, and I wish we did, and had a neat, all ornate stuff, and a big clock, and we could do Back to the Future, and it would be wonderful. We don't have that, and the only other thing that sticks up downtown is Hotel Fredonia. So, you almost have to figure out how do you capture that a little bit. We think that the beginning of and the Lanai Creek Trail is just kind of a special area, and if you could really drive people, most people now, we go to downtown or we got our walking shoes on and we go to the trail, and if we could make it, it's like Susie said, if there was something there, that might come together more than you realize, and that trail could be delivered. Areas that we think really probably easy but need to be looked at, need some work. You got that Commerce Street area, you got, what is it called behind? Pillar Street. You got the whole park area from the Regions Bank down that, it's funny to me, we always complain about parking. Have you been down to Freedom Park? There's parking everywhere, but you got to walk all the way up the hill. And part of it is what you said, Susie. It's like, there's nothing there. If there was something there, it wouldn't feel like that far, And so when we looked at big areas for 100 people or so, this whole U here could easily be developed. And don't nobody tell Rusty I said that, because that might mean we taking out the street beside the bank, and no, good Lord. But, that's just a pretty natural area. When we took our walking tour, you see this building missing right here? Mm-hmm. I never noticed this. I've been down, I go to Milford's, once every 6 months, and there's an open space, and guess what you see straight through there? All the rooms at the Hotel Fredonia, if you were having a festival, a park here, they'd be up there in the rooms going, what's that going on over there? Because I've always thought they were just buildings that block that entire street, but there's this huge gap in there that's usable for an out-of-towner who had no idea that something was going on. Obviously, this downtown area, we might not have, if we had these kind of places to go to, you might not have to close Main Street, but you could do the U behind that. But that's an area where we have had and can have large things. But here's the innovative think out of the box. You've got this huge area here that is completely underdeveloped, and a lot of it's in the floodway. But in terms of walking trails or river walk kind of stuff, you've got this whole opportunity that actually ties in around to the farmer's market and could even go up towards the dog park like that. And we think that's got just unseen, unknown potential. And that's our list.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I want to wait. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. Connections to surrounding areas.
Yes.
This gateway, just call it like it is. I'm not running for anything, so I don't think about how I say it. This is a community that reaches out that's underserved. It's a lot of African American. This is a gateway that they own coming into that end. This community down here, a lot of that is Hispanic community. That's a gateway, and not just, I'm from Houston and I'm coming to Nacogdoches, gateway. This is, I'm this community and this is my gateway. There might even be some opportunities for ownership there where, hey, community, here's the criteria and design. You create your gateway using these pieces, and you create your gateway using these pieces, and you can give some different ownerships to it like that. So we think that this is the gateway to SFA, believe it or not, I know SFA students don't do it right now, but you think, I'm not walking all the way downtown. You go to some of these college towns and they're walking twice that far. And again, it's because that hadn't been developed and it's not an obvious thing.
If you cross over and go, I'm old, so the buildings aren't even there anymore, but past the president's house and go through campus, how they've closed that down and made that a beautiful walking plaza and all. If some of those elements were continued on, those kids would never even realize they'd moved off campus and moved into another area. This is kind of the gateway from the north. This is a gateway from the south for tourists. And we don't know which one. There's no guarantee that this is the I-69 gateway. I know our brains make us think it is, but that real intersection that's happening is really down here somewhere. So it may not be that that's the main gateway. And that's why we think that center point, any of those you come to, voila, I made it, because there's the big, huge something. So now, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's take this one and put it over there so it's easier for people just to stand where they are. First time that's ever happened. Put it on top of the other one. Good, thank you. Yeah.
All right,
Mario.
so, we did a lot of what the first group did. However, we did not mark the boundaries.
We did not.
We're honoring the 1846 boundary map, which goes from about here to here to here, and we'll mark it in a minute, here, and then to past Shawnee Street. We were looking at gateways moving further out to around Sanders Street. We were also thinking about a gateway right here at that South Bridge, one around University in Maine, and then one up here on the original map. It was on, help me out, Power Street. Okay, we saw some places that need improvement. Our E's are throughout here, parking lots, some untapped potential with streets we can close and use for events, the old mice factory. Then we saw special places, the D Farmers Market. We have parks, our downtown square as it is now, the hotel area, and so again, the Lenana Creek Trailhead here. Places for large group gathering. Again, there are these hotels, these are iconic areas where people do gather. The town square for events, festival parks. And then we had connections to surrounding areas. We had a discussion about that Shawnee area needing that gateway. And this gateway being the introduction to town from some 69 corridor. And one I never realized was this original map honors this Power Street gateway area. So you have entrances from all sides.
Wonderful. Anyone wants to add to that discussion from the group? Anyone from the other group that want to ask questions about any of that? Well, this is fantastic. Great input. So thank you for taking the time to do so. If you please can take your seats. We say thank you very much.
I like drawing on the wall.
Yeah, maybe further us out.
We'll be emailing. That's pretty neat.
Guys, we've got a last exercise. I want to do it quickly. Don't spend too much time because I know you guys are tired. You're ready for the weekend. But what we have here is we just want to quickly ask the question. And if you can quickly give some thoughts and ideas and share some ideas, and we will take notes of what you said. But think about these different types of uses that we can have downtown. The question is, what of those do you want to see more of? Is not enough. What would you want to see less of? Because there's already too much. Okay. And what of those would you see, no, you don't want them? remove them, take them away, or never ever allow them to be there. So I'm going to ask someone that can control for me please, thank you, Risa. So if, and I'm trying to think how to work through this because, I could have asked you to give a number, but it's difficult to group. But maybe if you can just ask the first one, civic institutional, as a group, let's talk about it, more or less or remove. And by civic institutional, we mean like a city hall, like a post office, like those things that are the county courthouse, that's a civic place. Anything that's civic of nature.
So can we add another comment? As is?
As is, yeah, that's what I was like.
As is, I would say. I mean, we're fortunate there because most of that legacy stuff is there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, as is. So, for civic, what would you, as a group, say would you like about
As
civic?
is.
As is.
As is.
Mhm.
Kind of agree, no dissent, as is. Places of assembly.
More.
More. Tell me a little bit why. Why do you say more?
We really only have one way now, and that is there's a festival downtown, close the dang streets. And it's just, there are people that don't do festivals downtown because it's you gotta go get the city and close the street, and then the businesses are mad because they close the streets, and we have one option, and that's not good. We need multiple options.
So you didn't talk about gathering places.
More of a civic center or something like that.
No.
Outside. About more gathering place.
Plazas.
Yeah.
Outdoor.
I want to say like a food hall or something because it's hard to make connections in a strip center or an Applebee's. You know what I mean? It's hard to connect with your people if you're going to those kind of strip center places. Think about Houston or an Applebee's next to a hotel. You're there to eat and get out, not make connections. So not so much a civic center, but a more establishment. It's your third place,
Or
not
even
home, not work.
A place you can take other, like, food from somewhere downtown and sit and have a community.
Yeah.
Is that how you all envision it? Is that what you thought about, Jason? About the same?
I bought food outside and brought it in a restaurant today, so I feel good.
I wish we had a theater downtown. We don't. We have a theater, but it's apartments.
Exactly. Or the performance hall, if you think about it.
We need a place for that you don't have to go to the campus to go to.
Right.
So,
We don't have that third place.
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Risa, do this for me. Behind place of assembly, just put their third place. I think I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
That third place that you need.
Yeah.
Yes. The next one is retail.
Yes.
More. Or some. We have none.
Well,
And we also
have some.
Type, but yeah, and you meant
There's none.
There's some.
Yes.
As a retail owner, there's some.
Well, but it depends. Are we talking about retail within the zones that we drew? Because that includes a lot of retail. Are we going to draw them downtown into existing buildings?
It could be anything. If you think, and just, it's a very broad question, because the way we do it, if you say more, the next question next time, or a follow-up question will be, okay, let's not talk about more restaurants. How, where? Maybe there's some infill, maybe there's buildings that are repurposed.
So more.
Well, I think, the bottom line is, if you look at however we define, none of us said make downtown smaller. We all said enlarge the footprint. To make people ingress and egress and move through that, you're gonna have to have more of both. You're gonna have to have more retail, you're gonna have to have more restaurants, so that people are moving in that whole zone. And so there's places that we've never even thought about putting them. Ben's is a perfect, heck, yours is, Susie. I mean, it was two places that no one ever thought about putting any kind of, pub or brewery or restaurant or wine bar, anything like that. And now what do people do? They come downtown for that. I mean, that's going to have to go all over that new defined zone.
Back entrance.
Yeah.
If you go to wine and.
So I'm good with more.
Restaurants, just because to me restaurants is like a very established place. Can we just say restaurant/food? Because sometimes not necessarily, I want to go and eat, not necessarily I want to go and sit down inside a place. I
would say no chains.
Yeah, no chain restaurants. It needs to be local type businesses.
What about,
Will we have this discussion later?
Yeah.
Will we have this discussion in depth later?
We absolutely.
Okay.
This is just the first shot at all of this. This will be rehashed a little bit.
Do you have a chain in mind that you were thinking of?
That she doesn't want.
No, we'll later. Later.
Let's talk about entertainment.
Yes.
Entertainment.
More.
Theater, it's.
Music, yes.
Or just even small, those pocket venues.
Yeah.
You're right.
Little stages where SFA steel drums set up and play, or, somebody picks their guitar or whatever.
It's like the European artist.
Very much so.
Exactly.
Very much so.
Offices.
Less.
Why? Why do you say this?
Because we don't have the parking for, during the day, parking's a nightmare as it is with all the businesses that are there, law offices and stuff like that. They use all the front parking, they don't use the back parking. So when you're coming into town, I have a lot of my guests that come to my restaurant, it took me forever to find a parking spot in front of a store because everybody parks there.
So is parking the issue or
Parking is an issue, yes.
Parking needs to be on that list.
Parking is an issue, it needs to be on the list.
We need to do basically not meter parking because it doesn't work. I think we need to do hourly parking. So if it's a lawyer's office, then it should be an hour to 2 hour. If it's a restaurant, it should be an hour. Then if it's a store front, it should be 30 minutes. And, businesses should not park in front of their spaces.
And I don't disagree. I'm qualifying the question, and I'm not biased, but the question in my mind, it would be nice to have more corporate, regional offices, if you had a place to park them appropriately to create more mass.
Yes.
And purchasing power, but you don't want them hogging all the parking.
Yeah, that's the problem. They have to create their own parking and not park on our city streets.
That's just to clarify me. If you feel like you've got more office and you need other things, and
I think offices would be better upstairs, so you could have your.
Exactly, that's a good point.
Yes.
Good point.
In the current footprint that we have, I'm going back to existing buildings,
Yes.
right? I'm concerned about the obsolete nature of some of them. In that current, offices may not fit, but like you're saying, we have empty spaces within our footprint that could do the 5/1. You could do different versions, and that makes sense for offices, for retail, for food.
But
currently,
all people are getting rid of their offices left and right now. People are now with COVID, people realize that they actually work really well remotely. So corporations are looking, let's cut these rents. I know tons of friends that have companies that have gotten rid of all their offices and gone remotely. So most of our office space is gonna sit empty.
Right, but also make the argument that offices perhaps become smaller because some are at home and they rotate, so it can become smaller. But I'm going to go with what Suzanne said. If you have office, don't put it on the ground level, because that's where you want to have the retail and the window space. Put the office at least on the second level, not the ground level.
But if we don't have offices, there's also, if we have more restaurants, then.
Yeah, we need people to eat at the
People
restaurant.
to go to the restaurants downtown on a daily basis.
But this is where we jump into those office buildings that are not rented, those become loft apartments. Then we have residents who living there 24/7. Breakfast in the morning, they pop home for lunch, definitely dinner, walking, because most of those people do not cook.
Right.
They're downsized, and so they go out to eat every night.
Right. Good, it's a good discussion. Let's talk about single-family homes. See a place for that in downtown?
That they're there.
Excuse me?
They're existing, we have them, don't we?
It went more?
As is.
As
I'd
is.
say as is.
Yeah.
As is. As is. What about townhomes?
I say no.
Tell us why.
They go tall. And then we lose our kind of aesthetic of what our town is. So townhomes are classified, tend to be tall walk-ups, 3 stories. People are not moving here for that. They're actually leaving the cities to get away from that, and they're looking for single stories.
So if we make it 2 stories, would you still be negative
Still
about
won't
it?
buy it though, but not in this town. People really, the 2-story houses are not prevalent.
How does everyone else feel about that? No townhomes?
Two-story houses just make me think of how hard it is to keep cool in this summer.
My
If
question.
you have an entire house.
Is there a new term instead of townhome? Is that the newest terminology?
There are so many terms that you can talk about. What we talk about is living downtown. It's not a loft apartment. Loft apartment would be the upper level. That's the upper area. A townhome or a row house could be an example. Anything that is fairly tight. It is more than 1 story because you want to keep the footprint small. Because you want to make it dense, not spread out.
I'm fully against it. I'm living in Houston and Montrose, beautiful house, little bungalow I bought. Then all of a sudden, within 3 years, my garden, my backyard had no sun anymore because they built all these 3-story patio townhomes all around me. And it lost the integrity that
if you drive through Montrose and the Heights now, that's all you see.
If I were to, if we were to change townhouses, I just want to see your response here. If we were to change that word out and put cottages, would you say yes?
Yeah, that's fine, or patio homes like over on Park Street.
I mean, I think that's the wrong word. I think cottage or patio home is that I would say, man, everywhere we squeeze one in, that can be used for retail. I mean, we have a lot of stuff down there that is not great for retail because of one-way streets and a variety of things like that. And those are actually great for, I'd love to be able to, I can tell you a couple I'd love to have. What's the guy's name that's on the committee they have the art gallery downtown, he has the Airstream trailer?
John?
John.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I'd kill for that building and everything there, and the problem is, it's not great retail, one-way street.
Yes.
Right.
I would like to see some examples of these townhome cottages, bungalows, multi.
I agree.
I would like to see some.
We want to talk the same language.
Sure.
We may talk about different places, and when we talk parts together.
Sure.
Definitely, I can
The
see.
space we define as downtown is much bigger than just the brick square.
Yeah.
One just caveat though, I mean, there's a new building type, kind of live work is what it's called, where you have a studio or a lawyer's office or a accountant. I mean, if you're thinking about offices shrinking and not having the conventional offices, but a live work product could be in like an attached kind of row house kind of product where the ground floor is work or, the live is behind or upper floor. That's something that allows the flexibility for a property owner, and these could be fee simple. The thing about townhomes is that they can be owner occupied compared to lofts and other apartments that are more rental. So just
Well, like Bailey McLean's kind of done that in his own way. He's got the office building, and now he's got his home, and then semi-attached to that now there's like a rental or Airbnb or whatever it's going to be. I don't know. And there's weird little spaces that aren't going to be great retail, and I don't want a big 4-story townhouse down there, but somebody go in there and put something, 3 little row houses and have breezeways between them or something like that. I mean, Jen and I are looking, I might be interested, in something like that. So, okay.
Thank you for that. So the next one is loft apartments. How do you feel about that?
More.
What about maker's space? Now, maker's space is where people make things like three.
Oh, for sure, yes.
More.
What about light industrial?
what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. And I'm going to ask Jane to help me, because she's the one that really knows codes. But to me, light industrial could be where it's heavy industrial will be where you do chemical stuff and it can be obnoxious. You don't want to have heavy industrial. Light industrial to me is almost between makerspace and industrial, where you produce and manufacture something, but it's at a small scale. I think about cottage industry. Now, cottage industry, again, is something between makerspace and light industry. Jay, how would you define it?
No, I mean, I'm thinking more of like your screen printing or, your metalworking shop, or glass blowing and, where, and it could also include things like catering business where you're like, salsas or it's any kind of like commercial kitchen where you may end up with, people who are like in the culinary field, just kind of something that's quasi-industrial but still fits into a residential character. You may limit the scale that you can't have a big warehouse, but it's more like 10,000 square feet or less. Could be a brewery or distillery,
So think about breweries, for instance.
Think about breweries.
I'm for it, but is that something that trended around 2012? Is that still the trend? Makerspace? I know they did renegade fairs all over the country. I know Martha Stewart was big in it. I mean,
you still see it. It may be slightly different from what it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's still around. And obviously, it's all about what is the demand. If there's no demand for it, why do it? But if you can identify a demand for it, it may just be that you want.
Well, or studio space. There was a person in town that wanted to make the laundry, the old laundry down on Main Street. I can't think, it was the laundry, I think, into artist studios for rent. So maybe not necessarily like you go there and you make something, but maybe you have real artists that are renting spaces in a spot like that.
Sounds like more loft. The makerspace is tough because there's no operator that's really scaled that nationally, right? So it has to be homegrown and so it's hard to scale.
And I'm thinking about the population and the consumption here, and does it make sense? The space is wonderful because you can fill that, like if a movie company, production company moved in here, you would instantly fill all these needs, like what's happening in Bastrop right now. But, I mean, I'm for it because it's forward thinking.
A version of that that's taken off a lot in certain spaces, it's kind of between a maker space and the light industrial is, we all know what like co-working spaces are, but you think of more like a professional, they bring their laptop and drink coffee at a co-working space. But there's versions of that that are kind of in between light industrial, like let's say you have a soap manufacturer and they sell their soaps online, but they need a little storage area and they, it's an office co-working type thing, but with kind of a light storage, type of space. And so
Even a commercial kitchen, sometimes you need someone who makes muffins, but they can't do it at home. The kitchen is not big enough and the ovens are not big enough. They need a commercial space. Maybe that can be.
You have a word missing up there, it's still very popular, is almost like an incubator,
Right.
Something like that, and.
There's an incubator there at the bottom, please.
On this thing he's passing out, on the bottom, I don't know if everybody can read it, it's cityofarcata.org/823/foodworks. And that's kind of an incubator that they've done, and this is all kitchen stuff, but you can rent a kitchen space, you can rent it for 6 months. It's basically for startup companies or food trucks where they can come in. Because I think there's a lot of talented people, but they can't jump in because they can't afford the rent. They don't know if their product's gonna sell. If we could have a community vendor or something where, people that make the little rope bracelets or whatever, have it as
You rent a booth or something?
Well, like how many of you have a neighbor that give you every year at Christmas some local honey because they rented their land out for some guy from Montana to put his honeybees and bring them down here and things like that? I mean, those people don't want to be in business, but they're retired and bored. I got a guy that lived out by me that built little birdhouses. He's never going to come run a big retail space. If there was something available, he'd like to probably just talk to people.
Some of our downtown buildings have empty second floors. The one I'm in, mine's building just been sold, but anyway, there's a lot of spaces upstairs, or I've thought about that, maybe just a gallery space where a local artist could just show their stuff. It's not like you're renting the whole building or even an office space. It's just kind of like.
I think before they renovated Cole Art Center, there used to be I think there was 6 artists that had a studio out there.
Something
Almost like that place in
economical.
Lufkin that's.
We have that downtown now, the firehouse.
Yeah, the firehouse, yeah, I've got that.
Well, we're coming to the end of our session, and any last thoughts, anyone of you, before we have the last question, or before we go to that last question? Yes, Maria.
He asked about dining options.
Yes.
And I know the movement is changing with delivery, DoorDash, but casual dining is missing. Not so much high-end, not tablecloth, but that middle place, not Taco Bell and not a wine bar. Where's that casual? Panera Bread, the things endorsed by different people. Those are kind of missing. The reason why we drive to Houston and Tyler and Austin, some of those places are missing. We don't know they're missing, but we're leaving to go to them.
Right, exactly. That's good.
Well, and I think, when we said more restaurants, the deal is if I'm going to go to the Cottage, which has limited seating and certain times of the year, I'm not ready to go to the Cottage at 5, but if I didn't, I'm out because the weather's beautiful and mosquitoes hadn't hit yet. And I couldn't get a table there for 4 hours. Right now, I'm irritated because I can't get it's Nacogdoches, Texas. We don't wait 45 minutes to get a table. So what I do, I get in my car and drive off. And I worked hard to get that parking place, and now I'm driving off. If yours was crowded and I could walk to the next one, it was a little crowded. And tonight I really didn't want whatever, but that one's the one that's got table, that sounds pretty good. I'm gonna go in there and sit down. And I think that's the deal, is we get so close to having just the right amount for critical mass. You want those businesses to be able to make a good living. So you don't want so many of them that's starving to death because nobody gets enough business. But we get so close to critical mass. I mean, 10 years ago, there wasn't a restaurant downtown, period.
That's a good point.
You know?
You need 4, and 6 or more is ideal, but you need 4 for critical mass.
Yes, Jane.
One last thought in terms of uses, and as we kind of recommend zoning changes, that what we would be looking at is making sure that buildings are designed so they can accommodate a range of uses, because we know the market is going to evolve and change. Today it may be an office, but tomorrow it could be a restaurant, and day after it could be some kind of a maker space. So we want to make sure that as we look at some of these uses, they're going to be they're going to depend on the market, and so that way the design is going to be more independent of the actual use that goes in. Be mindful of that.
Thank you for that, Jane. Yes. But before I ask you to close the meeting, I would like to go quickly around the room and ask each one of you to please, in one sentence or word, summarize your experience today. Anything that comes to mind, what this was, what it means to you, anything that comes to mind. I'm going to ask Suzanne
Don't start with me.
and I'm going to go this way around till Laura. So if you can think about something that summarized today, what would you say?
My
Suzanne?
words are, I can't ever come up with them when I need them, but I think it was very productive.
Productive. Thank you, Suzanne. Mario.
Proactive and efficient.
Proactive and efficient. Thanks, Mario. Brandy.
Thoughtful and proactive.
Thoughtful and proactive. Yes.
Positive.
Positive. Thank you. Jay.
Informative.
Informative. Red.
Thought provocative.
Thought provocative. Yes.
Motivating.
Motivating. Like that.
Let's make it happen.
Eye-opening and productive.
Eye-opening and productive. Benjamin.
Productive.
Productive. Laura.
Collaborative.
Collaborative. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate that. Miles, if you could say the last words.
Hey, the next time we come together, we have a homework assignment. And your homework assignment is to bring a list of everything you want to see. The other thing is, just so you can have a heads up, we're going to be getting a bunch of material through Jessica that we begin to fill out those little yellow things and all that. So we probably won't meet in March, because this is kind of our March meeting. So we probably won't come back together until April. And by then, we will have received a lot of material. So watch your email. That's going to be participatory, where you have to fill things out, put some sticky tabs and things like that. So, hey, y'all, this is going to get good, I think. So thanks for coming. Appreciate y'all.